What's up, guys? So today we have a special guest, Rob Schuh. He's had some history with interviewing college players and in the college, like doing college basketball and stuff. And then he's also had some history with all 49ers writing articles for them. So today I'm going to be doing a show, and we're going to discuss some topics. The main one being Julio Jones, what the 49ers would have to give up for Julio Jones, and what they would have to how do I say this? What is it even possible for the 49ers to get Julio Jones? So let's get right to it. Hold on. What would have to happen for the 49ers to acquire Julio Jones?
Appreciate you having me on, Ben. Really excited to be here on your show. First and foremost, just want to say thank you. I've watched a couple of your videos, man. I'm impressed. Let me say that first and foremost. I'm excited to be here today. I'm excited to answer your questions. I'm excited to start off with the Julio nonsense because that is a big topic, right, Ben?
Yeah.
So what are we looking at first and foremost? What has to happen in order to acquire Julio? So this was something I was already digging into, but when you brought it top of mind, I just started to do my research, right? So to me, there are a couple of things that you have to consider in acquiring Julio and actually getting him. The first being the trade compensation. What are you going to need to give up in order to get him from Atlanta over to San Francisco? That's the first question. And then you need to work on how are you going to fit him on the roster? How are you going to fit that big salary into an already tight cap situation?
That's the biggest problem.
That's a real big problem. It's a real big problem. So when I look at trade compensation, what the Falcons have been asking for is a first rounder.
Right.
I don't think they're going to get that. I think it's pretty apparent at this time that they may want a first rounder, but that's like the asking price that you put for something you sell on Craigslist, right? If you're going to throw your bike up on Craigslist, you ask for 500. You're probably going to take 400. And so I think that's the case with the Falcons as well. Now, there is a story that they turned down a second rounder from a team that was willing to cover the entirety of Julio's salary in that trade during the draft. And they turned that down. So they probably will want more than a second rounder.
Definitely. Yeah. Go ahead.
Now, a lot of those articles are talking about the Falcons having to eat a portion of Julio's salary in that trade, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that seems like an unlikely scenario. The only reason Atlanta is getting rid of Julio, is willing to trade one of their franchise stars, is because they are up against that cap. So to me, asking them to pay some of that salary is a pretty unlikely scenario. They have lost some leverage, wouldn't you say? Yes. Right? Julio did this interview. Do you think he knew he was on air?
I've heard a few people do that. I think so. Deshaun, James Harden, I think they all, like, they know it, and they do that on purpose. Like, we've seen it. They do that on purpose to kind of get the Falcons' attention and be like, hey, I'm serious about this. Like, they do that. Sometimes players.
I think that's spot on, Ben. I think it is fair to assume that Julio was aware he was on air and just acting like he wasn't, right? Making it seem as if he had been caught surprised. I would not be at all shocked to learn that he was sitting in a room next to his agent when he got that phone call. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. So I think that they've lost some leverage there, but I don't think it changes what they're hoping to get out of it. So to me, you have to start with a second at a bare minimum. That needs to be the starting point, a second round pick in 2022. And then you got to sweeten the pot. And it becomes a question of what's your tolerance there. For me,
go ahead.
No. You go ahead, Ben.
For me, I think it's the future picks. Like, the 49ers can't give up too much.
That's right.
This year, but it's the future picks. So maybe you could get like a second this year, a second next year, and maybe like a fourth next year or something like that, like the year after that. So it's going to be a fine line. And like Grant Cohn was saying this the other day too. He was saying, like, if anybody offers a second and a third in the AFC, people are going to take it. Like they're going to take it. So the 49ers have to essentially outbid everyone in the NFL or in the AFC essentially, and they're going to have to offer a lot more than a second and a fourth. But I don't know if they'll do that.
Yeah, so I agree with you wholeheartedly that, and you bring up a really key point, which is if all offers are equal, they absolutely want to ship Julio to someone in the AFC. They don't want to come up against him in trying to get to the Super Bowl as they rebuild. They want to ship him out of the conference. Certainly would rather have him go to the AFC. What I think is, I think you start with an offer of next year's second, and I think you're spot on that you got to go to the year after that for the picks. I think you do start with a second and a fourth and go from there. I agree that probably doesn't get it done. I think maybe you're going to have to go with a second in 2022 and a third in 2023.
Yeah, a third or a fourth or something.
Yeah, but I'll be surprised if we ship multiple second round picks, only because we don't have the first round picks already in the next 2 years. And so if you now don't have a first or a second round pick in 2 consecutive drafts coming up, that makes it tough up against the cap in 2022, which is scheduled to be pretty tight. But then I started looking at the second part of your question, right? Which was how do we fit him on the roster?
And I believe that somebody's going to have to go, Jimmy or Fred Warner. And it's like, actually a testament that Jimmy played like Trey Lance. I saw some reports that he wasn't doing that great, which is good but so Jimmy might need to stay there.
Yes.
So do we do the same thing with Fred Warner? Do we do the same thing that we did with DeForest Buckner with Fred Warner?
Yeah. My instant reaction there is that they won't. I take Kyle at his word when he says he wants Fred to be there long term. So if it's not going to be Fred, I think you're on the right track with Jimmy. I picked out 4 contracts that you could potentially address in order to get this thing done.
I never did that.
There are 4 of them that there's some wiggle room. So I'm going to put those out there, and then we'll kind of walk through them, and you tell me what you think. So first, to set the stage, right? So currently we have about, and these numbers are from various sources, so if they're incorrect, I apologize, but my research, we have about 9.4 million in cap space remaining after signing all of our rookies for this year. We get another 1,075,000 when Weston Richburg retires, but he has to wait until after June 1st to do that.
Right.
So that puts us about 10.5 million. Julio's number for 2021 is 15.3. So we're about 5 million short. There are 4 contracts the Niners could address if they want to gain that 5 million. Here you go. You hit the first one on the head, Jimmy G, right? We all know he's making 26 million.
I want to restructure him, but that means extending him, and that's impossible. So
it does. There's only 1 year remaining on his contract. We have a very clean out next offseason if we don't touch his contract. So I agree with you. That's a tough one to swallow, because what you're doing is kicking dead money down the road, and you're just going to have to deal with it next year when it's still going to be a tight cap. Then you have Eric Armstead. Now, this is a recently signed deal, but you have his cap number for this year at 12.5 million with 3 years remaining on the deal. My instant reaction on this one is these numbers get scary big already when you look at the tail end of his contract. So I'm not going to adjust this one because I'm already fearful that it could end up looking ugly in 2 years. If he reverts to how he played in 2019, that's not the case.
I believe that the main reason why he played good in 2019 was because of the so good pass rush. So I don't know if he's ever going to get to that point again, but prove me wrong, Eric Armstead. So continue.
Yeah, it's spot on. And I would add to that I think the only way he returns to that form is exactly how you laid it out, that he needs the rest of the line to be playing at an elite level. The only counter I would have is I believe that's possible. I don't know if you can say it's probable for this year, but I think it's a distinct possibility. So I think you may get that bounce back that you're hoping for out of Eric. I don't think that regardless of the bounce back, he's ever going to be a DeForest Buckner or obviously a Bosa. But I don't think that's what the 49ers expected from him either. So I think he can return to what they're hoping he is.
That's a good point you laid out for sure. I definitely do think they took the cheaper player in Armstead instead
Mhm.
of Buckner, and yeah, so I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Julio is that's an interesting one that it's like we don't because I was saying this yesterday. Our Fred Warner, he already our defense, we expect them to take a step down because of Robert Saleh
Mm.
leaving, because he was one of the best defensive coaches. So how much, like, if we trade or get rid of Fred Warner, our defense is going to take a bigger step down, and that's going to be really going to hurt us a lot.
Yeah, great point. It would be a huge loss to take what is essentially the quarterback of the defense, the person who's making the play calls on the field, the guy who is in charge of communicating to the rest of the unit, to trade away that valuable asset when you've already
Mm-hmm.
lost the defensive coordinator. I agree that that would be a big mistake. You don't really know what you have yet in D'Amico Ryans as a
Mm-hmm.
defensive coordinator, certainly a stellar linebackers coach.
Yes.
But making a transition from a position coach to a coordinator, certainly a big step. And so I agree with you. I think that that would be a big loss. So the last two that you have an option on, one is interesting. Laken Tomlinson,
Yeah.
last year of his deal, he's earning just about 6.6 million in the last year of his deal.
Okay. I actually like that a lot, that player, because I do think that Brunskill, we should put him and compete with, because now we have Aaron Banks. We should really let him compete with Mike McGlinchey, because I do believe he's a better right tackle. Take it for what it is, but I think he's a better right tackle. He played really well in 2019 at the right tackle position. Left guard, moving him to left guard, I wouldn't be mad. It would take a while. So yeah, I agree with that, Laken Tomlinson. That would totally, he's not that good. So
Yeah, so I would take a different angle on it. I think you certainly could clear it up through a release there, although there would be some dead money attached to that. I would consider extending Laken Tomlinson. Now, I don't know that that fits into the 49ers' long-term plans. They took two guards in this draft, right? Obviously,
mhm.
Banks was the big one, but Moore, who played left tackle for one of the Michigan schools, it will now be converted to
Oh,
guard.
I forgot about him. Yeah.
And so I think that he may be their future plan. So that one is tricky. It's a possibility. It's one that they can explore. The fourth player, the one that I think they should prorate the rest of his contract into a signing bonus and therefore clear up the cap room is Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward's cap figure for
Right.
this year is 10.94 million. He has one more year remaining beyond
Ooh.
this year. You could take that existing deal, take this year's money, convert it into a signing bonus that he then gets paid right away. So he just gets 10 million right up front. And now you're spreading that cap hit over 2 years, the remaining years in the deal. There was a voidable year at the end of that deal, those weird voidable years that we've been putting in
Mhm.
contracts recently. I don't know how that would impact the signing bonus of this restructure, but what I know is from Jimmy Ward's perspective, it's a guarantee of money coming in, so it seems enticing to him. And from the 49ers perspective, he has put together two really solid seasons, and I think it's fair to then guarantee his money for next year, which is
Yeah.
essentially all you'd be doing.
Man, I did not look at it that way. I'm glad you're laying it out this way. So, do you have a fifth player, did you say?
No, just four of them that
Okay.
I see. So I think that there's room in the Jimmy deal, but only if you are looking to do one of two things. If you just want to move some dead cap money from this year to next year, you can do that through a clever maneuvering with Jimmy, even if your intention is still to cut him or trade him next year. Or you can extend Jimmy. I just don't
Yeah.
think that there's currently the appetite for that within the organization. They are clearly very happy being committed to Jimmy for just this season with the flexibility of keeping him for one more year, trading him, or cutting him at that point with only 1.4 million in dead money for 2022. So there are a lot of
Mhm.
options, I think. That's the interesting piece for me on the Julio front.
For sure. Yep. We'll see what happens. I'm glad you laid that out. That was interesting. I think I would love to have Julio because, like, We need Debo in the slot. Debo can't be a number one outside receiver. Brandon Ayuk and Julio, that would be a scary duo. Whoo!
Unbelievable. And Grant Cohn has mentioned this, that, sliding Debo over to that third spot where he's incurring fewer snaps. I think that could lead to a
That's the
healthy season
dream
for him.
situation.
Yeah, he plays such a physical style of football that it's great to be able to limit those snaps for him so that he can continue to play that ferocious style and not take as big of a beating.
Okay, so a few quick questions, rapid fire. You guys hit the nail on the head. They want to ship him to the AFC. Pats or Titans? I would. I don't know. Go ahead.
I think that when you brought that up, the AFC, that's the key. That's where they're going to want to send him. Now, where Julio wants to go could be a different answer.
Because personal relationship with Kyle Shanahan, that's probably the number one destination.
Yeah, and he trains in the off season in Los Angeles, and so he has ties to California. So he's certainly familiar with the state and the surroundings. It truly isn't up to Julio. It's up to Atlanta. But Julio is the type of franchise player that typically franchises show respect to, in that they listen to where they would like to go. If you're not very important, the team doesn't take that into consideration. Julio has given the franchise some really solid years. They do owe him that sense of decency to get his approval on the trade. Pats make sense to me. That could end up being a landing spot.
Yeah. I was about to say that the Pats definitely are. Trade McGlinchey in a second. If they don't accept the trade, then give them a fourth. And then to replace McGlinchey, we sign Morgan Moses from Washington football team to replace McGlinchey. I don't think McGlinchey in a second would get it done. I really don't.
I'm not sure that it would either. And you also have to consider, first off, I mean, shout out to Amin. I love seeing him pop in on Grant's show. And so just wanted to say hello first and foremost, recognize the greatness, But I think that for me, the McGlinchey, sending him back, his salary this year is pretty hefty, if I remember correctly. I've got salaries here somewhere, but I want to say that he is in the 6 to 9 million range already. And so you have to take that into account. Yeah, he's at 6 million this year. So that means that now Atlanta's taking on that 6 million back, and they're trying to get rid of cap in order to sign their rookies. I think that one's a tough one. I'm not familiar with who's playing right tackle for them right now, but they may not see it as a huge value upgrade. But I like the creativity. That's the key. The Niners will have to get creative. It may take a player, may take some picks. But I say push for it. I say get it done. I mean, let me ask you this, Ben. Does this trade excite you? Would getting Julio move the needle for you?
Yes. Because here's the thing. You have DK. You have all these guys. You need, especially with Jimmy, you need guys that can be playmakers to win against the Seahawks. Jalen Ramsey. Guys like that, you can't keep just staying like mediocre. I absolutely believe it. I'm 100% for this trade. Actually, if we can get it done, I want to keep Fred Warner. That's that. If it means us shipping out Fred Warner, then no. But
I'm out.
Other than
that, if it takes Fred, I'm out.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm pretty good with it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I would agree with that.
So, what's your thoughts on trading Jimmy to New England for Cam Cuz Newton? Cam Cuz Newton, we be a better mentor for Lance, and Jimmy would be a better mentor for Mac Jones. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, first, let me compliment the logic there of the fit for mentorship. I think that is a true fit. I think that it probably would match up playing styles. That said, for me, I'm not concerned about mentorship. I'm concerned about winning football games. And I think the 49ers are too. I think that we have had too many inconsistent seasons with high expectations where we've fallen short a bit. So I think we have to maximize wins. And in my personal opinion, I mean, you may differ on this, but I believe Jimmy G gives us the best chance to win within this current offense on this team as the starter. out of all the available options that I have seen, barring some weird trade for Aaron Rodgers. That would be a true upgrade. Other than that, I would rather start Jimmy and hope that he can play all 17 games.
And Jimmy looked good. I mean, I think Jimmy, his confidence is going to start getting up. So,
let me tell you, Ben, I think that was the biggest missing piece for Jimmy last year. His confidence was wrecked, Ben. Wrecked.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I have completely agree.
Confidence is key, really key throughout life, in everything you do. Going into things with confidence in your own abilities to get the job done will dictate the outcome of that scenario. If you go in believing you're going to be successful, watch the highlights of Russell Wilson and his positive thinking, the way he says positive things on the sideline. When they're down in the fourth quarter, he says, we are going to win this game. And guys believe him because he's done it before and he's talking about winning. And you just see their whole attitude shift and it changes the momentum of the game. Confidence is key.
Yeah. And everything, not arrogance, but confidence. Like,
correct.
So let's move on to the next topic. Do you still believe the 49ers are an elite franchise? And do you believe, I didn't write this second part, but do you believe they're number one in the AFC?
So, yes, if. It's a qualified answer for me. Yes, they are an elite franchise. That part, there's no qualifier. Yes, the 49ers are an elite franchise. Why? They have 5 Lombardi trophies sitting in their case. That's elite. They've been to 7 Super Bowls. That's elite. Hall of Famers all time. Looked up this quick stat. They are 10th most. They have 16 Hall of Famers.
Best receivers probably produced ever.
Yeah, the GOAT, Ben. I mean, Jerry Rice, that was me growing up. My first 49er game would have been in 1985. So I was the Jerry Rice era. He was my hero. I was there at the stick for his 101st touchdown reception. Got the shirt with Highway 101 and Jerry on it. I mean, I was there for all the big moments. I'm blessed. Some of the best guys in the entire history of the league are in that list of 16 49ers in the Hall of Fame. I had the blessing to go to Joe Montana and Ronnie Lott's induction into the Hall of Fame. So I went to Canton. Got to meet, shake Eddie DeBartolo's hand. That was phenomenal. Got to meet Joe, got to meet Ronnie. It was amazing.
That's crazy.
I mean, they dominated an entire decade in the 80s. It was just crazy. And they've clawed their way back to relevance after the loss of Eddie D, who was probably one of the greatest owners in the NFL franchise history. And they've had 2 Super Bowl appearances in the past decade, which I think is elite as well, even though both were close losses. On to your question of best in the NFC West. This is the one where it's yes, if. Yes, if we can stay healthy. Ben, it has been painful to watch all these injuries, man. It breaks my heart.
It's 50% our fault for sure. Training staff, I believe, isn't great. I believe we definitely have drafted players that we knew have been injury prone. So go ahead. You had a point.
Oh, no, I was just going to agree on that factor of we share part of that blame. I don't know about the training staff. That to me is one that I can't be confident in speaking to. We did a complete revamp of it at some point during this attrition period, and that didn't seem to matter. What you did hit on that I think is key is some of this idea of drafting players who have significant injury histories. And more importantly, in my book, is Kyle's insistence on finding these guys who are physical freaks that can do things that other players can't. So a guy like Debo or George Kittle, they have such physical playing styles. I think that they're much more prone to injury because of the way they play the game. But the way they play the game is also what makes them so damn good. And so it's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. What do you want? Players who make amazing plays on 4th down against the Saints and shed 7 tacklers and miss 2 games a year for injury? Or do you want someone who can't make that play but plays all 17? So that one it's tricky for me. And then, when you look at the rest of the division, all 3 of the teams have issues. The Rams truly lack depth. They are a few injuries away in many areas from devastation. much like a lot of franchises in the NFL, but not nearly as deep as the 49ers roster, in my opinion. Seahawks have to prove that they can keep the O-line in front of Wilson standing up so that he doesn't get beaten down every single Sunday. And the Cards really need to step up their offense and get some consistently from Cliff and from Murray and really take full advantage of all those weapons that they have on the offensive side of the ball.
I think if we can minimize Russell Wilson each game, that would move miles, because minimizing him would mean minimizing the team. It would be incredible if we could do that. And the Rams, I feel like they definitely did like get better with Matthew Stafford, but in a way they did. They lost a few players. The Cardinals, they have to prove to me that they're actually like super good, because I don't know, we've been able to minimize them each year. So yeah.
To me, it's the most competitive division, tied maybe only with the AFC West. NFC and AFC West divisions are lights out and could end up in almost any order, depending on injury and how a few key additions and subtractions play out. It's really going to be a fun season looking at how things finish in the division.
Yeah, I completely agree. So do you have anything else to say on that?
No, I think that ties it in nicely. You know, I think that, again, the most complete roster in the division, done a great job of building depth. It will be a question of whether we return towards the normal side of injuries or whether we stay at this atrocity, which is the injury rate we've seen the last couple of years.
I think if we can kind of, like, again, 2019, actually, that year we had a lot of guys injured, but they weren't like a ton of season-ending injuries, and we were able to get healthy by the playoffs towards the end of the season with the Saints. I believe that we'll stay somewhere in the middle. I don't think we're going to be as injured as that last year, but I do believe that, I don't know, I think it is part of the training staff's fault for sure. Wait.
It's fair to wonder that.
Yeah. One Niners, 2 Rams, 3 Seahawks, 4 Cards. I can see that.
I like that prediction.
I believe that we're going to go second in the division, just giving the 11-6. I think it's going to be really close, but giving the trap games, giving all of that trap games, injuries, getting worn down. Like I did a schedule prediction a few weeks ago, and giving the trap games worn down later in the season, the injuries, that's going to be key. And later in the season, it's tough to win games. Trap games, there's a few in our schedule. There's some hard games on the road against Tennessee and stuff. So 11-6, right around the middle. I think there's going to be a team slightly better than us, maybe a game or even a tiebreaker situation. So that's my thoughts on it. But
that's a fair assessment. And we do have a lot of miles to travel for road games this year. We always do, but certainly this year we've got some rough stretches where we're really going to put those travel miles in, and that exhausts players for sure.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic. Do you believe that hold on, never mind. What are some tips that you can give to aspiring journalists?
So really, for me, this comes down to a couple simple tips that I would put out there, and preface it by saying that I don't consider myself to be, any expert level anything. This is from one aspiring individual to other aspiring individuals, and this is 42 years of life experience for me, professional experience, sports experience, all tied together. I think that the key is embracing failure. Embrace failure in life. Realize that you will fail at many of the things you try to do. And that is okay. That is a part of success. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it change your passion. Whatever it is you want to do, know going into it, it's going to be hard. You're going to come up against walls. You're going to feel like you're not good enough at times. That's okay. It's okay to feel not okay sometimes. And to get through that, You surround yourself with people who believe in you the way that you do. You have those positive influences in your life, and you just fight forward. It's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get up. That would be the biggest piece of advice I could give to anyone aspiring in any field whatsoever.
That is some great advice. Joseph Camperman, my brother, I have two, but this is one of them in North Carolina where I used to live. This has been great, guys. Good job, Benjamin and Rob. Thank you. I don't know if he's leaving, but thank you for the support. And what is going to, so the last thing, the last topic, it was on my mind, is who is going to be the 49ers number 3 receiver?
This one's interesting for me because the 49ers keep going through a little game of roulette as to who it's going to be with who they add to the roster and who they subtract. I'm going to say that the 49ers third wide receiver is not currently on the roster. I think that we will at some point add a player that ends up in that third spot. If it is someone on the roster, I've got to go with either Richie James Jr. or maybe Travis Benjamin clearing through. But Travis Benjamin is a full year removed from any type of game action.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like they want to hand the reins to Richie James Jr. by their actions this offseason. They've continued to try and find guys. And I thought it was going to be Marquise Lee, and then he was waived the following week. It now has been revealed that it was an injury waiver at that time. So he had a good practice, came back the next week, had knee soreness, and that was it for him. That's too bad. I thought he had the talent to make it, but I'm going to say that whomever it is not currently on the roster. It could be D.D. Westbrook, or it could be we add Julio and it becomes Debo as that third wide receiver.
That's another one, but another one I think a few things tie into this. Number one, we have literally been looking all off season for replacements, receivers, just all off season. Could tell D.D. Westbrook. I don't know if that's going to work out with him, but all off season we've been trying to find ways to get another receiver. Will we? I do think we're going, like, if we don't, it's kind of like those things. If we don't hook Julio, we're going to try to get another guy. But, like, what are the options out there? Because I don't feel like there's that many.
Not much.
It's pretty slim. And so I could see it being Richie James. I think but I don't know. Like, that's the interesting part about it. Like, we haven't really showed a ton of faith in him. So maybe I don't know. I honestly, it's really hard. So
it's tough. If you had to pick someone who is currently on the roster from those players, who do you feel is the most likely to make it into that third spot? So if we look at it now, where we are looking at Richie James, we've got Trent Sherfield, we've got Jalen Hurd, we've got Kevin White, River Craycraft, Travis Benjamin, Jawan Jennings. Do any of those names strike you as that third wide receiver?
I could see Jawan Jennings, like, he's kind of taken a step. I could see Jawan Jennings, kind of. That would be like, but I mean, again, that third depth position is bad. That's why I really am for getting Julio. And Jawan Jennings, I don't know, like, he showed some flashes, so maybe him. I don't know. What's the guy? Richie James. I want him to be the number 3 receiver if we don't get anybody, but they haven't shown a lot of faith in him. And then I would totally agree with, like, has Emmanuel Sanders been signed yet?
Yes. He's not back with the Saints, but he has been signed. It escapes me at the moment who signed him. But yes, he's off the market, I believe.
So you got him. So you had him. I guess we could do, obviously, D.D. Westbrook, but he's been ACL. Like, that's not a great guy. That's not my number one option. So that's another evidence that Julio Jones maybe will look into it. But it all ties into Trey Lance. The fact that we drafted him is it's going to hurt us down. Like, if he becomes a Hall of Fame quarterback, of course, it's not going to it's going to pay off, but it will hurt us in the next 3 years because of the first round picks.
Yes.
Because we can't do as many things as pick up Julio or offer a first for him. So I don't know what the Bills write.
That's for Emmanuel Sanders. I just looked that up as well. It was the Bills that he signed with. So now you've got Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders for Josh Allen to throw to. So look for a good year from Sanders.
I think they're the #1 seed this next year.
That's a reasonable prediction. I think they're a talented team.
And I think they have last year they didn't, but they've improved. Like a few shows ago, I talked about they've improved tremendously in the draft and everything. This is going to be fun to see them and the Chiefs battle it out, but I think they have enough to battle it out with them. So, should we do another topic, the kind of fallback one, or?
I've got a all 49ers roundtable coming up in a little bit, so we may have to
check it out.
Cut it here. But I do want to say thank you for having me on. I do want you guys all to check out the All 49ers roundtable that will be on Grant Cohn's channel, YouTube channel tonight. And then I would ask a favor of your listeners here, your viewers, to come together with your questions, any mailbag questions that you may have, any aching 49ers questions that you've got. And he's going to throw it up on the screen, but we're looking for 49ers mailbag at gmail.com. Email me. I'm starting up my own channel right now. If you go there, it's only going to have my show with Grant and upcoming shows with Grant and a creative video that I did around the Princess Bride for draft time and selecting our quarterback. A bit on the funny side if you have 5 minutes to kill. But I will be building out that channel, and I'm going to be answering people's questions on creative videos. I'll keep them funny. I'll keep them light. I will do shout outs to the people that put their questions in. So, Ben, I'm going to ask you to submit one. The best question every week, I'm going to take and answer live on Grant's show on Fridays at 11 standard time. And any other questions will be answered in videos on my channel as I try to build out. So go to Rob Schuh on YouTube and subscribe, even though right now it looks like the channel barely exists. You will be one of those first few followers.
The link, I've already followed him, but the link is down below in the description. That's very cool. We will see you guys later. The link's down in the description, right down below. And we will see you guys later. Thank you for watching. This was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. And we'll see you guys again soon.